girl of my species. I'm the only one I ever saw.
No, you don't have to play. But just because people aren't getting sick anymore doesn't mean that the world is right again.
And who have we here?
This is my son.
Company boy.
Not looking for any more company, sir.
I bet.
Who is it?
What do you want?
We come in, we're very cold. I've got a little child here.
You just gotta keep her close.
Then I'll get up and I'll get free. And I'll come find you.
Before going to bed, Caleb tells his daughter, nicknamed Rag, a cautionary tale. They spend the night in the tent as usual. Rag asks her father if she is really the only girl on the planet. The man tells his daughter not to lose hope. There will come a time when she will meet other girls. The family lives in the forest. Caleb hunts for food and teaches his daughter science so that she has an understanding of human culture. Rag is a very curious girl who constantly asks her father questions. Caleb tries to explain everything she asks. Once they saw an old man near the tent. Telling his daughter to hide, Caleb told the stranger that it was his camp and that outsiders were not welcome. Noticing Rag, the visitor became interested. Caleb lied that it was his son Alex, who is 11 years old. Caleb also repeated that they were not looking for company. Understanding the hint, the stranger left. Caleb told his daughter that they needed to leave right away. Perhaps the old man had figured out their trick and would tell someone else what he saw. The family set off and soon stopped for a break to spend the night. Rag is worried that she doesn't really know any of the people except her father. Caleb understands that his daughter needs social interaction, but he does everything for her safety. It's the meaning of his life. At night, he inspects the area with a flashlight to make sure there is no one around. In the morning, Rag felt sick. Caleb had to use folk methods to help her. The man recalls his wife showing him a spot on her skin. In the present, Caleb gives the daughter to drink water diluted with charcoal. The girl worries that she has the same virus, but the father reassures her. Rag has been immune to the virus since childhood, which is why she survived. He remembered how his wife refused to go to doctors. She lost hope because no woman had ever survived the mysterious virus. When Rag felt better, the family set off again. Once, they saw a house that looked abandoned. Despite the risk, the father and daughter decided to inspect it. There was no one inside. The layer of dust on the furniture indicated that no one lived here. After telling his daughter to stay downstairs, Caleb went up to the second floor. Only when he made sure it was safe did he allow his daughter to come up. Apparently, a mother and daughter used to live here. Moreover, there is a working water supply here. Rag suggested that they stay here, but the father says it's too dangerous. People come to any house sooner or later. Rag had been persuading her father for a long time. Eventually, he agreed to stay for a couple of days to rest from their wandering life. Rag was exploring the children's room, which had many different things from the previous owner. In the basement, she found a newspaper with an article about the virus that had been dubbed the female plague. It had wiped out all the female population. Caleb remembered how happy he and his wife were when they had their daughter. But now the world had changed beyond recognition. The next day, the man saw that his daughter had dressed in feminine clothing. He told her that she couldn't go out like that, where everyone they met on their way would guess that she was not a boy. This caused constant conflicts between the father and daughter. Rag didn't understand why she couldn't be herself. Caleb wanted his daughter to always be ready for danger. One day she found something scary in the shed and immediately called her father. There were the previous tenants of the house in the shed, who had been deceased for years. At night, the man continued to remember their past life. Later he came to the daughter, who couldn't stop thinking about the finding in the shed. Apparently, that girl was her age. Caleb hoped that by the time his daughter grew up, the world would change for the better. But this would only happen if there were more women on Earth. Currently, all men in the world were embittered. Humanity was on the verge of extinction. The father just wanted to protect his daughter and give her a better future. The family decided to stay in this house for a while, but that didn't mean they shouldn't be vigilant. The father and daughter decided to go to the city. It was unsafe, but sometimes they had to do it. The city had a gray and joyless atmosphere. The father and daughter went to the store to replenish their supplies. Everyone thought Rag was a boy. Before returning to the forest, they went to the library, which was in shambles. Rag loved to read. Caleb found several books on child-rearing. He could use some good advice right now as Rag grows up. In the evening, they had dinner at the table, which had become a rarity in the current reality. The father tried to explain to his daughter how children were born, but it turned out that Rag already knew about it.
Was that something that you read about in a book?
The father also told her about what growing up meant. Rag was very embarrassed by this conversation. Later, the man checked if all the doors in the house were locked. Rag asked the father about her mother, whom she didn't remember at all. Caleb told his daughter that the mother loved her more than anyone in the world. He also misses his wife very much. They used to live very happily, but when the virus started, everything ended. Listening to the father's stories about her mother, Rag smiled. When she fell asleep, Caleb remembered how his wife, who was getting worse, asked him to tell their daughter about her when she grew up. The man couldn't sleep and read a book. Suddenly he heard a suspicious sound outside. But when he looked out the window, he saw no one. The next morning, Caleb was reading old newspapers when he suddenly realized they were not alone. Hiding his daughter on the second floor, Caleb heard a knock on the door. A man said they had run out of gasoline. Caleb said he had no gasoline, but the uninvited guests insisted that he open the door. Wasting no time, the man ran to the second floor and escaped through the window with his daughter. Meanwhile, the thugs broke into the house. The father and daughter ran without stopping, with the bare necessities. They were once again forced to return to their vagabond life. Soon they came across a church where decided to spend the night. Rag asked who those people were. She guessed they were following them from the city and looking for her because she was a girl. Caleb once again told his daughter that she was safe with him. However, Rag is afraid that something will happen to her father one day, and she will be left alone. The man promised the daughter that he would never leave her. He will do everything to keep her safe. The next morning, they continued on their way, which passed through an abandoned town. Their goal was Caleb's grandmother's house, located near the mountains. He believes it is the perfect place to hide because there is not a living soul around. Rag feels guilty because she's the reason they have to hide all the time. One day they caught a ride. The 19-year-old guy said he hadn't seen such young people like Alex for a long time. Now that almost all women have disappeared from the face of the earth, children have become a very rare phenomenon. The guy talked about special bunkers where the remaining women live. They are forbidden to go out into settlements. At one point Caleb said he supposedly saw someone on the side of the road and asked to stop the car. He did it on purpose to talk to the guy alone, away from Rag. Caleb declares that he's taking the car. He didn't want to harm the guy, so he asks him to stay out of the way. The man understood that he had done something wrong, but had no choice. They couldn't walk such a long distance before the cold weather set in. Soon their journey came to an end, but it turned out that someone was already living in the house. Caleb knocked on the door and asked permission for him and his son Alex to warm up. Tom, Calvin, and Lemmy live here. They said that when came here, the house had been abandoned for a long time. They have been living here for 4 years. Tom offered the guests a place to stay for the night. Before going to sleep, Caleb reminded his daughter what to do if they were in danger. After that, Caleb overheard the men reading excerpts from the Bible aloud. Early in the morning, Caleb woke up Rag and told her to dress warmly. They found an old shed that would be a temporary shelter for them. This is where they will hide their things. The new owners of the house offered them breakfast. Later Tom said he didn't mind if Caleb and Alex stayed here. From then on, Tom taught what he thought was the boy about country life, including how to handle a gun. Caleb is worried that Tom will eventually reveal their secret. And soon it happened. Tom asked Caleb directly who he was and who the child was. At first Caleb tried to avoid answering, but eventually told the truth. As proof, he showed Tom the family photo. Tom couldn't hold back his tears because he lost all his daughters and granddaughters during the virus. In the evening, Tom offered Caleb a drink and said that there are places safe for women. One of them is nearby. Caleb understands that vagabond life is not for a child. All these years they lived only for their survival. Tom believes that Caleb should calm down and rely on the will of the God. However, Caleb cannot do that. Before going to bed, he told his daughter how he first saw her on the ultrasound when her mother was pregnant. It was then that Caleb understood what happiness is. The next day, he saw some men approaching the house through the window. Caleb told Calvin about it, but he just closed the door in front of him. Waking up his daughter, Caleb ordered her to prepare for escape, but getting out of the house unnoticed was not that simple. The voices of strangers became louder, so the father and daughter hid on the roof. The only way to get out was to climb out of the window, which is exactly what Caleb and Rag tried to do. It turned out that the height was much greater than Caleb thought. He helped the daughter down, but he couldn't make it himself because a stranger had entered the roof. Lying in wait, Caleb seized the moment and attacked the man. A fierce fight broke out between them. Caleb knocked out his opponent, but suddenly another man attacked him. Caleb neutralized him as well, then saw Tom and Lemmy below with no signs of life. When Caleb opened the door, a third man attacked him. Caleb had too little strength left, so he was defeated and almost lost consciousness. Suddenly a shot rang out. Rag stood in the doorway with Tom's gun. Caleb hugged his daughter and immediately took her away from here. They returned to their shelter, where some essential items were hidden. Caleb was severely injured and could no longer stand. Rag understands that she must be strong for her father. As Caleb drifted off to sleep, he remembered saying goodbye to his wife. Her last request was to take care of their daughter. When Caleb woke up, he didn't find Rag in the cabin. She was nowhere to be found outside either. In despair, Caleb called his daughter for a long time and soon saw her returning through the woods with all the necessary items. Before, Caleb had always taken care of his daughter, but now she takes care of him. Caleb cried in helplessness, realizing that Rag's life would always be full of difficulties. There is no such place where she would be safe. Rag hugged her father, saying that everything